Well, actually, I auditioned for the first time in a very long time for Michael McKetty and Lee Martino and Daryl Archibald, and they're all the artistic directors of the show. And I had not seen the show prior, or I've not seen the musical, and so I just decided I want to do this. I want to be in LA. Reprise is such a fantastic theater, and to be able to work here is a real coup, I think, for any actor. And so I said, okay, and the part was for Mammy Oakham, and I thought, what fun could that be? And I had just finished a show at our theater in La Mirada, so I thought, I played a dog in that, and so now I'm going to play a granny.
I did Li'l Abner in 9th grade, which was a couple years back. So first of all, it was nostalgic for me. I'm like, I got to do this character again because I loved him back then. And once you live a little bit of life, you begin to understand Li'l Abner and the essence behind the show and what it means. And it means more to me now, and it means a lot more to me now. So it was something I wanted to do, so I jumped all over it.
I came late in the game. Originally, another director was supposed to do it, and sometime last fall I got a call from Jim Guardia, who asked me to do it. And it's a show that I've actually never seen on stage, but grew up with the cast album, loved the score, all those things. So it was a great pleasure to accept it.
Who was known to all his men as good old paper mache. Why, it was Jubilation Tea Corn Pone, completely outworn Pone. Jubilation Tea Corn Pone, he really saved the day. Hooray! History says that General Grant was pretty good with a jug. Who drank drink for drink with him and wound up under the rug.
Li'l Abner, I mean, it's funny because he is the title character, but he's really just a pawn in a cast that, I mean, the show is nothing without a great cast, which is what we have. Li'l Abner is not the brightest bulb, but it's also the charm of Li'l Abner because he kind of represents the essential optimist. And, you know, in today's society, we all get kind of caught up with the stresses of the world and the politics of life and everything, and here's a guy that is completely isolated from that stuff, and there's a beauty in it in the sense that he's not affected by it, and every day he's just happy to be around, and he's, you know, if there's a cloud following him, somehow he manages to find the sunshine. You know, everything's okay, you know, a bomb's coming, it's all right, you know, we'll work it out. So I really love that because we all get bogged down, especially in Los Angeles, where we're all just, you know, just stressed all the time, and everything's got to be now. And it's a pleasure to almost come here and work because you almost get to relax because you throw yourself into Dogpatch, and you're away from that crap out there, you know, that we call necessary living. You know, and Dogpatchers call it just life. You know, it's easy going. So, in a roundabout way, Abner is someone who we all need to get more in touch with, in a sense. That's how I feel.
If you read Al Capp's synopsis of Mammy Oakham, she is kind of the self-appointed mayor of the city, even though she's not the mayor. And I think her reason for doing that is because it's a real kind of hick, sort of laid back, nothing gets done unless she kicks rear end in it. And Pappy just kind of follows around until the end of the show when he kind of finds himself. And Abner is taking some yokumberry tonic that takes away his romantic interest in Daisy May. So Mammy's always the one who intervenes and makes things happen until people kind of take it upon themselves to do it. And she's very opinionated and very tough and very pugilistic, as she says.
Not really doing anything in terms of radically reinterpreting it. It was sort of a concept musical to begin with because they were bringing a comic book to life. So we're trying to honor the broadness of the comedy and the comic strip style, but still keep a kind of heart and humanity to it, a sort of truth rooted even in this, crazy cartoon world, and basically, as I think is really appropriate for Reprise and what they do here, sort of honor the great musicals of the past that don't often get revived. This is a show that is revived all the time in schools and community theaters and stuff, but is very rarely revived on a professional level. So this is a fairly rare professional production of the show.
No matter where you come from and what you do, everybody wants the same thing. They want their community, they want to be heard, and when push comes to shove, whether you are a hick or whether you're a socialite, whatever it is, if you stick together and your values are in the right place, those are the people you root for it to prevail, for goodness to prevail. And I think that with Li'l Abner is, he doesn't seem very smart. But I think what the audience really latches onto is there's a real inherent sense of goodness about him. And this little town with all the caricatures, there's a real goodness, and when push comes to shove, they're going to help each other. And they're not going to let, General Bull Moose destroy their town. They're going to come together at some point. It's almost like the movie Funny Farm to me.
Li'l Abner, we has both learned, still don't know how money gets earned. He's big and he's gentle, but unsentimental as far as young girls is concerned.
I gets pretty tired of running from Daisy May,
which leads us to say it's a typical day in Dogpatch, USA.
It's quick, we basically do our designer run through at the end of the first week of the rehearsals, so it's a quick process, which means of course you're a little bit more result oriented in things. But thankfully we have a wonderful cast and a fantastic production team, including Lee Martino, our choreographer, and Daryl Archibald, our musical director, both of whom I've worked with and are wonderful, and we have a great sort of collaborative shortcut between us.
When you're producing theater, it costs a lot to put these shows together, and these incredible musicians and everybody. You don't have the luxury of 4 weeks to do it. You better put it together in 2 weeks. And yet, even though you only have 2 weeks, you have to make it as good as Wicked. You have to make it as good because that's what's going to get reviewed. So you better be up to speed on it. And yeah, you do work a little harder, and maybe it's like doing a soap opera. If you want to be good at it, you spend extra time doing your homework.
Well, yeah, Jason told us off the bat at the first day of rehearsal, he's like, you're going to be so ready to do this show on closing night. You'll be just ready to do it. And it's very, very true. But as far as the experience, I always really associated good theater with New York. I'm really impressed with the way in which everybody knows what they're doing and the camaraderie between the different elements that put shows together. Because quite honestly, in television and in film, sometimes it's hard to get the camps to meet on the same page and stuff, but there's something about this theatrical community and at the Reprise that just puts them all to shame. They all kind of get along, which is nutty to begin with. And they have a talent of putting together people that kind of gel, When I was, cracking jokes with Kathy within 5 minutes of the first day of rehearsal, and we were all just getting along so well. And so I've had a great experience at Reprise.
Just the one who'll do, namely you.
you deserve someone good looking, namely me, someone who as yet ain't tookin'.
We've got a number of recognizable people. Obviously, top billed Kathy Rigby, who is wonderful, and Fred Willard, who is also just wonderful. But a lot of people who, a few of whom I've worked with before, but a lot of whom I've known a little bit socially and professionally, but never worked with. But people like, Michael Kostroff, who's playing Marion Sam, is really, terrific actor who does a lot of theater stuff, both in LA and elsewhere. Eric Martzoff, who's playing Abner, I actually worked with, Lee and I both did on a show several years ago, so he's one of the few people I had worked with before, but it's wonderful to be reunited with him. And, just a lot of pros at the top of their game, and it's really great fun when we get to sit down and work on those scenes to have a group of really creative, wonderful, inventive comic people who are in a room playing together.
Probably the greatest thing about this cast is the ensemble, in that I've watched them now rehearse for 2 weeks, and every single one of them at every rehearsal gives 100%, and that's not always the case. And I see a lot of young kids with a huge amount of potential to do as much theater as they want.
Very familiar with Fred Willard. Big fan of him and the work he's done with Christopher Guest. Love all his movies. He's great. I've known about Kathy Rigby, Peter Pan. I mean, she's a legend as far as Peter Pan goes. It's crazy. But I didn't know exactly who I was working with until I got here and realized this is a really talented bunch of people. We got some folks in here that just fit the bill to a T, and I attribute the casting director to that. He did a really good job of rounding up some really fun people, and that's the strength of this show. It's not one person that's sticking out. It is literally a lot of muscles in one show that are just pushing the show ahead like a train.
The best of hands. That money that they tax us, that's known as revenues. They compound the collateral, subtract the residues. Don't worry about the principal and interest that accrues. They're shipping all that stuff to foreign lands.